When dreams turn to dust. The smell of coffee should have been comforting. Instead, it made Haesu's stomach turn as she stared at the stack of red-lettered envelopes on the kitchen counter. Past due. Final notice. Legal action pending. She'd been awake since 4 in the morning, unable to sleep, replaying the conversation from last night in her head. Mincheol had come home late again, the 3rd time this week. His shirt smelled like perfume that wasn't hers, something floral and young and expensive. "You're being paranoid," he'd said when she asked. Not denied. Just dismissed. Haesu picked up her phone and scrolled through their old photos. There they were, 5 years ago, standing in front of the flower shop where he'd surprised her with an entire room full of peonies for their 1st anniversary. She'd cried then, happy tears, convinced she'd found her person. The apartment was quiet now. Too quiet. Mincheol had already left for work without saying goodbye. Again. She got dressed mechanically. Gray blazer, black pants, the same outfit she wore every day to her job at the accounting firm. At 32, Haesu felt like she was living someone else's life. When had everything become so heavy? When had the man who once wrote her love notes on napkins stopped looking at her altogether? The subway was packed with the usual morning crowd. Haesu found herself squeezed between a student with headphones and an elderly woman with a shopping bag. As the train lurched forward, she caught her reflection in the window. When did those lines appear around her eyes? When did she start looking so tired? Her phone buzzed. A text from the credit card company. She didn't open it. At the office, her desk was exactly as she'd left it. Neat, organized, surrounded by the soft gray walls of her cubicle. Her co-worker Ji-yeon popped her head over the partition, ponytail bouncing. "Haesu, did you hear? There's a new intern starting today in the design department. Apparently he's really handsome." Ji-yeon waggled her eyebrows. Haesu managed a weak smile. "That's nice. You okay? You look exhausted." "I'm fine. Just didn't sleep well." It was easier than explaining that her marriage was crumbling like old paper, that she couldn't remember the last time her husband touched her with anything resembling affection, that the debt from his failed business venture 2 years ago was crushing them both. The morning crawled by in a blur of spreadsheets and client emails. At lunch, Haesu sat alone in the break room, picking at a convenience store kimbap, when Ji-yeon burst in, dragging someone by the arm. "Haesu, this is Taeha, the new intern I mentioned." Haesu looked up and nearly dropped her chopsticks. The young man standing before her couldn't have been more than 24 or 25. He had one of those faces that belonged in a magazine. Sharp jawline, expressive eyes, dark hair falling artfully over his forehead. But it was the way he looked at her that made her freeze. Like she was the only person in the room. "It's nice to meet you," Taeha said, and his voice was warm, genuine. He bowed politely, but his eyes never left her face. "You too," Haesu managed, feeling suddenly self-conscious. "Taeha just graduated from design school," Ji-yeon chattered on, oblivious to the strange tension in the air. "He's going to be helping with the marketing materials." "Isn't that great?" "Great," Haesu echoed weakly. Taeha smiled then, and it transformed his entire face. "I've actually seen your work, Ms. Haesu. The quarterly reports you designed last year? They were really impressive. Clean. Professional. You have a good eye." She blinked, surprised. You looked at quarterly reports?" "I like to study good design wherever I find it." His smile turned slightly sheepish. "I know that sounds weird." "No, thank you. That's very kind." Ji-yeon's phone rang, and she excused herself, leaving Haesu alone with this intense young man who was still looking at her like she mattered. "Can I sit?" Taeha asked, gesturing to the chair across from her. She should say no. She should make an excuse and leave. Instead, she nodded. He sat down, folding his hands on the table. "This is probably too forward, but you seem sad. Are you okay?" The question was so unexpected, so direct, that Haesu felt tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them back quickly. "I'm fine. Just tired." "Okay." He didn't push, didn't pry. Just accepted her answer with a small nod. "Well, if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm a good listener. And I make terrible jokes that might cheer you up." Despite everything, Haesu felt the corner of her mouth twitch. "Is that so?" "The worst. My friends banned me from telling jokes at parties. That bad. Catastrophic. She found herself almost smiling. Actually smiling. When was the last time that happened? Her phone buzzed on the table. A text from Mincheol. Working late again. Don't wait up. The almost smile faded. Taeha glanced at the screen, then back at her face. He didn't say anything, but something flickered in his eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. I should get back to work, Haesu said, standing quickly. Of course. It was really nice meeting you, Ms. Haesu. Just Haesu is fine. His smile returned. Smaller this time but somehow more intimate. Haesu then. She gathered her things and hurried back to her desk, heart pounding for reasons she didn't want to examine. This was nothing. He was just being friendly. He was practically a child. But that night, when she came home to another empty apartment, another reheated dinner alone, another evening of silence broken only by the TV, she found herself thinking about the way Taeha had looked at her. Like she was someone worth seeing.